Why not? You're a very special group. And whether it's today or tomorrow or maybe next year, I hope you can realize that, how special you are. I asked dear Linda I'm going to ask her to read a quote. Read a quote. And I'm going to ask you to feel into that and read it slow and dramatic and sensual. Why not? So here she goes.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for status quo. Is this okay? You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while many see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So applicable to you, to Shambra. The crazy ones who believe they can change the world because, not just for the sake of changing, because they know the world was asking for change. The world was saying, we're ready. So you step forward and say, and it can be changed. It can be. Absolutely, and therefore it will be. A beautiful quote. Actually, wasn't written about you. It was applied to you. Who wrote it? Steve Jobs. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Steve Jobs is no saint.
Want me to read it like Steve Jobs now?
Pardon?
Should I read it like Steve Jobs now?
Steve Jobs, no saint. No saint at all. For those who aren't aware, Steve Jobs, the co-creator, co-founder of Apple, Steve Jobs changed the world. He's an interesting character, and so interesting that while I'm not a fan of sharing the stage with any other beings, I like to have you all to myself. Unlike Tobias, always had a guest. I have asked Mr. Jobs to be with us today. And he agreed immediately without hesitation. So let's take a deep breath. He's here already. And he promises not to call any of you idiots. But he said I could. Let's invite in Steve Jobs. Yes, this is kind of historic because I don't normally do this and don't intend to make it a habit. But as was said earlier today, he was kind of Shambra, kind of connected with the energies. He's smiling right now. If you would like to, you can close your eyes to sense him or keep them open, but he's wandering around the room. Doesn't have any intention right now of going to some bridge of flowers or anything else. He's still having far too much fun in hanging around. Too many projects, too many things he wants to do, too many associations. Now, it's been said that Steve was a Buddhist. I guess you could say he was. He's kind of shaking his head right now and saying was and wasn't, didn't really care one way or the other, but it kind of fit. He liked the identification with it. For him, Buddhism was not so much about the spiritual journey. It was about a way for him to manage his energy through meditation, diet, discipline, denial. It provided some insights, definitely, into simplicity, and that's probably what he loved more about it than anything else. Elegance and simplicity, the zen of life, the beautiful, simple elegance. So he connected with it that way. But it also, as you know, Stephen had tended to have a bit of a temper. Actually, the temper was partly that he didn't want to settle for less. He always wanted the most out of himself and those who worked around him. But it did lead to anger at times. So the Buddhism part was a place for him to get back his balance and his center. When he crossed over recently, he said the simple words many of you have read, "Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow." Kind of like almost a spiritual orgasm, because it kind of was. What was he saying "oh, wow" to? Himself. Good. You get an Adamuss Award for that. Himself. He met himself. The self that was so close, so close, because of the type of inner work he had done. It was right there. So when he crossed over, immediately he met himself. Oh, wow. It was amazing. Most people don't have that kind of experience when they cross over. They kind of have to go through this big, long tunnel, and they look at their regrets and their grandmothers still scolding them and those things. But I have to say, my dear friends, when you cross over, you're going to have that, oh, wow. You're going to realize, and maybe you won't even have to cross over for it to happen. You're going to realize how the you is right there, right now. Not way out there somewhere, but it's, oh, wow. Right here. That was the oh wow from Steve. I am right here. And in that I am, that oh wow that he realized that what had been separating him from it was so thin that he could have just blown on it and would have fallen over. Such a thin veil between the human aspect and his I amness, so very thin. And then he had a big laugh, a huge laugh, but his body was dead, so nobody saw it. But he had a huge laugh and said, you know, if I had just taken that breath, and if I had just relaxed for a moment, I'd have realized that, oh wow, was here right now. But I did try to study too much, and I tried to develop mechanics and systems for my own living ascension. And it didn't work out. But I had fun otherwise. But wouldn't it have been great? Steve is saying now, wouldn't it have been great if I could have just done that, oh wow, a long time before I had to face the physical departure, the oh wow in the now moment. So I invited Mr. Jobs in today, and he's fascinated with what you're doing. He knows what you're doing because we talked, and he can sense it right now. He has tremendous admiration for the pioneer nature of what you're doing. And he says a few words, which I won't have Culture channel directly, but I'll speak for him. He says a few words, first of all. Allow yourself to realize what you're doing. Stop denying who you are, because you're going to waste precious years. Your precious years, but precious years for this planet. Stop denying who you are. Let your grandness show. If you have to get on top of a building and scream out your grandness, let it show. If you have to lock yourself in a room and feel your grandness, then do it. You're not doing service to anyone by denying your grandness. It's a bad game. It is a truly bad game. It's a dead-end game. It's a stupid... Yeah, okay, Steve is saying it. You're idiots if you play that game. You're idiots, he says. Okay. So I'm much calmer than you are, Steve. So with that, next. You are the visionaries for this planet. But you do it by being visionaries of yourself. Vision is one of the greatest gifts that Mr. Jobs allowed himself. He came here with it, but he allowed it to show. The vision, the ability to feel, not into the minutiae and the details, but into the overall, the ability for him to feel into what is this, what would evolve consciousness? A computer at your desktop. He had a very, very big argument at one time with the United States government about shipping computers to communist countries. And of course, the government, in their infinite lack of wisdom, said, you can't do it because they're going to have all these powerful tools. His vision said, you should do it because it will give each person sovereignty on their desktop. It will give them access to the world. It will open up the truth. It will enable them to be empowered human beings. And when there's empowered human beings, there cannot be walls, there cannot be old political structures, and there cannot be imbalances of energy. Ship the Max. I'm throwing in a little commercial for his company. He had the ability to envision next that people would go beyond a computer as just a place to run some software programs, do some typing. It was a central point of connection. Connection with themselves, and secondarily with the outside world, with their music, with their creativity, with their photos and their artwork, with all of their aspects. That little box that you have sitting on your desk is actually a brilliant tool that connects you with your aspects. Allows you to put everything into very real time, into motion, into a sensual experience with your aspects. The aspects of art, the aspects of your past lives, actually, and just feel into it for later, but it's a connection point. And it's not the piece of hardware, but it's the potentials that it represents and what it can do. And he had that vision, and he said, oh, by the way, and then people can buy music and connect on the internet and read books and everything else, but these are empowerment tools. And he had that vision. So, as point number 2, he asked that you have vision for yourself. You're not too old. None of you. I don't care how old that body is. I don't care if you think you're in your waning years. Actually, those are the best years for vision. Because you had a lot of experience. You've got pretty good center balance now. What you also have is a lot of doubt, and you're thinking, oh, it's a lot of energy. It is not. Visionary beings don't need a lot of energy. It's not tiring. Mental beings get tired. They do. Structural beings wear out, just like structural parts and machines wear out. Structural humans wear out, but visionaries do not. What is the vision you have for yourself? Steve asks. I ask. What is the vision of you? Floating down the river of life, wondering what the bleep is going to happen next? Hello, Crash. What is the vision you have for you? Waiting for something to happen so you could react to it? Well, that's a cop-out. Excuse me. That's a cop-out. I mean, that's the way most humans live. I'll just wait, see what happens, and then react to it. Yes. Or having a vision that is like a huge consciousness magnet that then calls in all of the resources to bring it into fruition, to the energy that allows it to happen, the people. Now, Stephen learned a lot about bringing in resources. He had a little bit of an issue, one that maybe some of you can relate to. I need that sword again. He liked to go into battle. He actually enjoyed it, as some of you do. You like the fight. Makes you feel real. Keeps your blade nice and sharp. It doesn't have to be that way, though. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to get into battles with mass consciousness or, how to say this, humans that are not on the same level of enlightenment or consciousness. And not to be critical at all, but to be realistic, there are humans that have only been here a few lifetimes, or maybe a couple hundred, or they're just not, they're not expanding the same way you do. You don't have to tolerate that in your life. They're not going to be your work partners, unless that's your vision. They don't. They shouldn't be your work partners. You can have a vision to work with those who have the same degree of vision, of excellence, of passion as you do. You don't have to save the world by working with or relating to or having relationships to those who are at a different level. They are where they're at. You're going to do them more good in the long run by having a vision for yourself. What is that vision? What is that vision? Can any of you feel the energy in here is getting very interesting? Yes. David, you can have my sword. Excalibur, David. Excalibur. So good. Now, so Stephen will be with us for the rest of the day, and he says he's open for a degree of discussion with any of you, anybody listening in, any of you here, for a period of time. He's having fun playing around right now. Next, as you're looking at your vision, you're looking at what you're doing here, consider some of the things that make this planet so special. Love, as I mentioned. It's still, love has now gone into the other realms, but this is still the place to experience it like no other place. Love for yourself now. Love for yourself. I can't stress enough that there are not these other grand planets of highly evolved, intellectual, spiritually enlightened beings. There's not. It's here. Maybe that's the bad news, but it is here. There's still a tendency to want to think that it's out there. It is right here in this moment. The most highly evolved planet or dimension of all. Most. As I've mentioned in other discussions, there's more intellectually advanced planets, but without love, without the sensual experience. What is all the intelligence that you could have? What is it? It's nothing. It's a dead-end street. Without feeling, without having this amazing experience in this very dense, very real, very feeling reality that you're in, what is all the intelligence? It's nothing. So, my dear friends, this is truly the most enlightened of all planets. It's the only planet that combines the animal kingdom with the plant kingdom, with the human kingdom. The only one. You're not going to find another planet anywhere that has all those attributes. This is the only planet where you can really get lost, absolutely lost in a very physical, very real way, and not really remember how to get out. There's some other dimensions where you can kind of play a game like you're getting lost, but you're really not. This is the place if you want to get lost. If you want to get so lost that you have to re-find yourself. Absolutely. And this is the only planet that was seeded by Gaia, the only one. She didn't run around all the other planets and seed them, only Earth. It leads to some spectacular, amazing experiences. It's the only planet that has, how to say this, incarnation as you would know it, Other planets have kind of a repetitive kind of renewal of life force, but this is the only planet where you have true death and incarnation. There are many, many things, and I hope to write a book about it soon, that make this planet so amazing.